Welcome to the Millennial Lawyer Podcast.
Welcome to the Millennial Lawyer Podcast, where we explore the intersection of law, entrepreneurship, wellness, and building a fulfilling career in today's fast-paced world. I'm Mark Sherian, and I'm thrilled to have Craig Ballantyne joining us today. Craig is a best-selling author of The Perfect Day Formula, a renowned productivity coach who's helped thousands of high performers build million-dollar businesses, and he's often called the world's most disciplined man. He's grown massive audiences on Instagram organically and coaches entrepreneurs to achieve more freedom while overcoming personal challenges like anxiety. Craig, welcome to the show. It's really great to have you here today.
This is going to be a lot of fun, Mark. Thank you.
Well, we'll just get into it. So you've built an incredible career helping high performers achieve more by working smarter, not harder, all while openly sharing your own journey, overcoming anxiety, and building multiple successful businesses. For many young lawyers listening who are just starting out in a demanding field, what fundamental wellness habits from your Perfect Day Formula have been most transformative for you personally in maintaining mental health? And how can they help lawyers avoid burnout in high stress environment?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that everybody who's a high performer has a lot of stuff going on. And so finding your outlet, whether it is a journal, whether it is a digital way of doing it, whether it is audio notes, whether it is having a therapist, whether it is having a confidant, whether it is having a mentor, you need to be able to brain dump everything in your head. And then, the way I describe it, Mark, is the analogy is a jigsaw puzzle. You got this jigsaw puzzle box, you have 1,000 pieces in it. It's a complete mess. It's like your hoarder ant's attic, it's full of junk and it's just going to be chaos. And if we don't get that out of our head, then it leads to this stress and anxiety. So finding that outlet is one of the least talked about, but one of the most essential components to kind of maintaining your sanity when you are running, really, really high RPMs and you're running a lot of hours and you have a lot of deadlines and you're doing important work with, consequences for all the parties involved, but it's essential for doing that. So that's just one of the many things that everybody can do and must do.
It really resonates with me because, I have clients, unfortunately they lost a loved one. They're dealing with discrimination. They've been permanently injured and it's completely changed the rest of their lives. And, I've had my own firm. This August will be 10 years and I've gone through so much with my clients. And a lot of times, personally, I'm internalizing a lot of their trauma, a lot of the issues that they have, and I kind of just put it on my shoulders. So I personally need to do a much better job of handling myself, but also being there for my clients because that's.
I always Mark. I always use the analogy of that guy in the Green Mile. If people watch that movie, Michael Clark Duncan, he was the big gentleman in that movie, and he sucked in everybody's pain, and he was able to exhale it, and it exhausted him, and I think it killed him in the end. But we all, as a high performing coach, we hear about divorces, we hear about infidelity, we hear about businesses, on the verge of bankruptcy, going bankrupt, turning around. I mean, employees leaving, and it is very difficult on you. But again, having that outlet is essential. And then having kind of the core values and the vision for yourself so that there are going to be dark days in the business of, as a lawyer, especially running your own firm, where you not only have your clients' issues to deal with, but you have like, oh man, we got to get more clients in the door issues. And having that North Star, knowing that, it's the Stockdale Paradex. And if young lawyers aren't familiar with the Stockdale Paradox, Admiral James Stockdale spent 7 years in a Vietnam prison of war camp. And the Stockdale Paradox that he developed in order to survive those 7 years was you have to confront the brutal realities, but you cannot give up faith, hope, and belief that you're going to make it in the long run. And, that's a butchered version of the actual quote. But what he found was when you were willing to say, hey, listen, we're in a tough spot, but I know we're going to win in the end. Those people were able to survive for a long time under harsh conditions. And that's, essentially what everybody goes through. I mean, Elon Musk went through it, almost bankrupt. And, today he's the richest man in the world. But most people overlook the fact that on Christmas Eve, 2008, he had to sell his private jet and fly Southwest like the rest of us. And, and he had burned through $100 million of his own money,
Yeah.
but he had bet on himself, and he never gave up on himself, and got this, government contract for SpaceX, I believe, that kind of saved everything. And everybody just overlooks that and only sees, the winning. But remember, everybody's going to go through tough times, but, tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Absolutely. So, I started this law firm at 29 years old. I had about $15,000 to my name. And I just had a feeling that I needed to go out on my own, start my business, make my own money. And quite frankly, I felt like I have a gift that I want to share with others, with New Yorkers. I just felt like I could practice law differently, give them that personal touch that they need for these sensitive cases. So, one thing that stands out about your coaching is how you've helped entrepreneurs shift from employee mindsets to owning their own success and often scaling to seven figures and beyond. So for me, the biggest issue was going from getting paid as an employee every other week to starting out my own law firm, not making money for some time, and then, grinding and then making enough that will last me 3-4 months down the road. So my question to you is, for young lawyers dreaming of entrepreneurial paths like starting a solo practice or building side ventures, what are the biggest mindset shifts or daily disciplines you've seen that separate those who make the leap successfully?
Yeah, it's a great question. And there's something that, I call the entrepreneur's paradox. Is when you become the entrepreneur, you can do anything you want at any time you want. And a lot of people get really paralyzed by that. So I was, for everybody listening, I was once a personal trainer to Toronto's richest people. Actually, in fact, I've trained Canada's richest man. And I didn't want to be a personal trainer forever. So I was building this online business at the same time. And then one day I got successful enough where I was able to say, hey, clients, I love you guys, but I'm going to move on. And now I had this entire day and I could do whatever I wanted. And you end up kind of fiddling around most of your day when you are new to it. So the thing that you have to do is you actually have to have more rigidity in your day, more structure, more routine. Otherwise, especially if you're a young single person with no dependence upon your time, you're going to fill every single waking hour with thinking about work, doing work, thinking that you should be out, trying some new social media or some other platform or whatever. And your life can become too much work, which can lead to additional stress and anxiety. So you need to understand what's your optimal morning routine. What are your boundaries and cutoffs? What are your non-negotiables for taking care of yourself, whether it is, a walk in the park, whether it is workouts, whether it is massage, whether it is meditation, whether it is something else. You need to make sure that those things are on the calendar. You need to look at yourself as a pro athlete. And so if you think about this, I just use LeBron James as an example because he's like the only pro athlete I know anymore. But they don't make LeBron James play 48 straight minutes of basketball in a basketball game, right? They have TV timeouts, they have substitutions, they have halftime, they have the quarter break. And so you have to look at yourself as that same pro athlete, because otherwise it's like, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to hit the computer at 7 a.m. and calling and, doing my case and review and all that stuff. And it's just like, I'm not going to take any breaks and I'm going to be on back to back Zoom calls. No. That's, again, they don't make LeBron play 48 straight minutes in a row with no breaks, because that is not how you get optimal performance out of somebody. They also have breaks in between games. They have off time in the off season, and he treats himself like a pro athlete, nap every day, massage every day. And we have to look at ourselves and give ourselves the grace around that. So you build this high performance machine that allows you to, you are going to work hard and you are probably going to work longer hours than, your brother-in-law who works over at, Amazon or something, right? But that is the price you pay at the start as you build that. But taking care of yourself and doing work that you love will help you avoid burnout.
Absolutely. And I kind of wish I knew that starting out. I think my mindset starting out, I had this perfectionist um, mindset that I couldn't make a mistake. I can't lose a case. I
Mm,
have to be on all the time. And unfortunately, I've gained weight, I've lost weight. Um, I started getting into hot yoga in the last 9 years while, when I started my firm. That's helped me a lot. I
great.
bike ride a lot around New York City, which is great.
Mm,
But I think during this 9 years I've had this law firm, I've learned that, I've gotten things out of my system. I've learned that, you can't attach emotion to results. You win cases, you lose cases. Just because you lose a case doesn't necessarily mean you did anything wrong. But I think that was the biggest thing for me, going from this perfectionist mentality where I always had to be on, and I put clients and cases and everyone else ahead of me. And I sacrificed a lot, with put my health behind the business. We were doing well, but I always put that to the side. And in the last few years, I've taken the initiative to make sure that I have a morning routine and that I'm taking care of myself and watching my weight, because I need to be like LeBron James. Using a professional athlete example, I have to
yeah.
be in the best possible shape.
Yeah, and going back to the emotional attachment, that's a really, really great point. And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle because they have emotional attachment to team members, and that rationally should leave and that sort of stuff. But I learned this really great phrase from one of my friends and clients and mentors, a guy named Xander Fryer, who's a coach, and he said you need to have high intention that you are going to do your best work, right? You are going to put all your effort into it. You're going to plan, prepare. You're going to follow the system. You're going to build it out, but you have low attachment to the outcome. Because if you have a high attachment to the outcome, very much like those other prisoners of war in Vietnam, those they had these guys who thought, oh, they're going to let us out at Christmas, and when Christmas passed and they didn't let them out, Stockdale said that those guys were done. They were dead in a month because they had such attachment to, at this time, this thing will happen. And when it didn't happen, it broke their hearts, almost literally. And it's the same with, being a lawyer or being an entrepreneur. Like, you need to do your best in this situation. I close deals in my business, doing sales calls. I need to do my best, prepare, but I don't fully control that outcome. And somebody may have some external circumstance that all of a sudden they got in a car accident and they can't afford my services. Well, I can't do anything about that, but I know that I did my work, my best work. And as you get older, I'm 50 years old, so I'm another 10 years older than you. You
You look
start
great.
to
You
reflect.
look great for 50.
Thank you very much. I have two hair transplants, but I don't dye my hair. It's actually this color. But hair transplants were amazing. But it's just having that reflection on going, not everything is life or death to your business, and you must understand that there will be losses along the way. No entrepreneur has ever gone and had no losses. Like, if you want to read a great book around that, read Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. The story of Nike. I mean, what he was doing in the 1960s, ordering shoes on the phone, talking to people in Japan, like, he no internet. Like, imagine what that guy had to go through, and he had a lot of losses. And it's one of the greatest success stories in entrepreneurship, and it makes for a great story. And we can go, oh wow, that was awesome. He really persevered. But when the screws are turned on us, a lot of us are like, oh my gosh, what else could go wrong? And it's actually a fraction of what's might be going wrong in one of our clients' lives or in other people's lives. I always like to I'll just end on this. I like to think about this from time to time, that there's somebody out there in worse circumstances than I am in, and they are doing more with what they have than I am. And that type of thing is like, man, I got to go and I got to do more with what I have. I'm always remind myself of that.
Did you ever read the book by Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath? That's
No,
a
I haven't read that one yet.
great book about how we all have certain disadvantages, and so it's, for some people it buries them, it completely paralyzes them, but for other people those disadvantages are exactly what propels them to be better than people with all the advantages in the world. So it's one of my favorite books that I actually read before I started my firm. So
Well, as a lawyer dealing with what you do, and as an entrepreneur coach dealing with what I do, I hear from people going through the grind every day, and your clients are going through the grind every day, and certain clients, and certain people just have more of a woe is me attitude, and that's no judgment, but we all have clients, we all have people that we know where you're like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that you're still going after everything that has been thrown at you. This is so inspiring. And, I have a friend, a guy named Nick Santanosis, I believe is how you say it. He's a motivational speaker. He currently lives in Dubai. He was born with no legs. He was born with one arm, and the only finger that he has on the one arm that he has is the middle finger. And he is a world-class speaker. He is one of the greatest motivational speakers you will ever see. He's moved to Dubai for all these amazing experiences and opportunities that he has over there. He's speaking for, the sheikh of the country and all the leadership. And I mean, here's a guy, right, who you could say, oh man, I don't blame you if you just kind of like hole up in your, family's house and you never leave or whatever. But he left, and he does bodybuilding, and he, does adventure stuff, and he's a girlfriend, and he is again a world-class motivational speaker. And there's another guy who's almost in the exact same physical condition as him. He's like got a Eastern European name, and I'm like blown away. This guy's also a great motivational speaker. And again, you couldn't blame them if they did nothing, but here they are, not only doing something, but at the top of a game where motivational speaking, where there's thousands and thousands and thousands of competitors. And so every single day you have to I got 3 kids under 3, so I watch a lot of Daniel Tiger. So any lawyers out there with kids listening, they're going to go, oh yeah, I know what he's going here. In Daniel Tiger, this little cartoon, it's modeled after Mr. Rogers. Yeah, and they say, when something bad happens, turn it around into something good. Sorry for singing, but it really is. That's life. Like, that is a human condition. Something bad is going to happen to you, and you have to turn it around into something good. You have to reframe your brain. And the people with the strongest ability to reframe their brain are the people who are going to be able to go through heck and keep on going.
That's great. So your organic growth on Instagram is quite legendary. You've built a massive audience and generated millions without relying on ads or gimmicks. Something that as lawyers we get approached all the time about different gimmicks and ads, and many of them have been burned. So my question to you is, for young lawyers looking to build their professional brand online, attract clients, or establish thought leadership, what are 2 or 3 strategies from your social media approach that offer the highest ROI with the least time commitment, if that's even possible?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think what you need to look at, there's so many things I'm trying to boil it down here, is you need to be yourself, but you need to be yourself and turn it up to an 11. So I am, so here are some things about me that you may or may not have noticed. I do not swear. And I am a very family oriented person. I'm very structured, very disciplined. And I believe in actually the way to get ahead in life is to actually subtract a lot of things in life. And so, that's the kind of messages that I put out there. And, I have a little bit of self-deprecating humor, the hair transplants and that sort of stuff. And so that's my character. So I start with my character first. My character is truly me. And I even go a little bit more and I always am in the character because I live that way with integrity all the time. And then I need to know, who am I speaking to? My avatar. I will tell people not to drink. I will, because I used to be a binge drinker, and I think alcohol is a complete waste of time. And, I don't care if you think it's something you like, great. But I think if you drank a lot less, you'd be in a lot better condition in life. I think pro sports is a waste of time. And this is coming from a guy who wanted to play pro sports and who loved pro sports. But I think it's a total waste of time. Like, who won the World Series 3 years ago? Nobody's going to know. And, everybody's going to forget. And, unless you're watching your children play sports, don't watch sports. And so, these are the things that I'm going to say. And I'm going to say those things, and I'm going to get a lot of angry people. You trigger people with stuff you believe in. Now, I'm not saying make something up. I see there's a lot of, I try and stay out of politics, but my wife was showing me some political thing on Instagram that's everywhere. And I'm like, these people just give everybody in their party a bad name by doing this stuff. It's just complete trash. But they know that they're playing the attention game. That's all they're doing. They're playing the attention game. Don't get sucked into the playing the attention game where you're doing things that damage your integrity, but truly speak your mind. Speak to your avatar, speak to your niche market, speak to the person who you want to attract. So there's a phrase in marketing, you want to repel to attract. I want to repel the people who want to smoke weed, who want to drink, who want to use pornography. I don't want to deal with you. I want people to come to my events and hire me who are family focused, who want to spend more time with their kids, who want to become independently wealthy, who want to have generational wealth, and who want to go on lots of vacations with their family, who want their kids to grow up well adjusted, and generally who want to spend time in their faith. And I have clients of all faiths, from Hindu to Jewish to Catholic, everything. And no judgment. I just want to give you the time to do it. So I'm speaking to those individuals, and I'm attracting those people into my life. And so if you are, let's say someone out there is a lawyer specializing in, DUIs, right? So you want to speak to the individual. You want the KLT factor. You want to be known. You want to be liked. You want to be trusted. And so you speak and you enter the conversation in the prospect's mind. Those are the 7 most important words in marketing. Enter the conversation in the prospect's mind. And so that even means showing up with different types of content on a Monday versus a Friday. And so on a Monday, if you're a DUI lawyer, you can show up and you're like, hey, listen, something bad might happen on the weekend. Here's a mindset that's going to help you get over it. And, if that, you talk about like, hey, listen, I highly encourage you to journal things and forgive yourself, give yourself grace and mercy, and understand that everybody makes mistakes. And if you happen to have a DUI, that's what I help specialize in, and so on. Like, that's the content that you can make. And it's, you could even like not even do the call to action at the end. You could just be like, hey, listen, everybody makes mistakes over the weekends. Often alcohol is involved. Here's what to do if that happened to you. And you can say it, you can say it if you're a high energy woman, you can say it in your voice to your people. If you're, very faith-based person, you can say it in your way, and you just do that content. But that's the content. Like on a Wednesday, it's a little less appropriate to show up that message because most people make their big mistakes on the weekend. And then you think, well, what's my prospect thinking on a Wednesday morning, on a Friday morning? And then having that, another thing that people overthink is that they need to have a million different ideas. No, you don't. You just need to talk about 3 or 4 things over and over and over again in a different way with a little bit of a different story. And there's types of, there's people who do these, talking head type videos with hundreds of thousands of followers in every niche market, from relationships to fitness to politics to being a lawyer, etc. And if you show up consistently, if you are speaking as your true self, maybe turned up a little bit, on some of your attributes, and then speaking to the right person and entering the conversation in the prospect's mind, you're going to attract enough of the people that are going to support you in your business. And then there's, storytelling and having opinions on popular things. Like, I actually have a friend who's a lawyer out in California. His name is Parag, Parag Amin, Amin. And then his Instagram is Parag Amin Esq. So Esquire, ESQ. So Parag Amin ESQ. And he does a lot of lawyer reaction videos, and he has grown his following, and he's a small business lawyer. He used to be a coaching client of mine, and he's just doing a really great job. And he's, and so there's a million ways to do this. You find the way that is right for you.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for your time today. This was excellent. This was excellent, and I really appreciate you being here. And Craig, you have a book out?
I have 4 books. The Perfect Day Formula. I have Unstoppable, which is my journey to overcome my crippling anxiety attacks. I have the Perfect Week Formula, and then I have the Dark Side of Discipline, which is the new one. I would recommend to everybody the Perfect Week Formula. Perfect Week Formula. It is the best productivity guide that I think will help all of your listeners. If anybody is struggling with the anxiety or stress, the Unstoppable book will give you the tools to never have to deal with it again.
Definitely follow Craig on Instagram. And Craig, thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Mark.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.